Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/entitled people. Where in today's episode, you'll hear a wild story about a Karen abandoning her 5-year-old so she can go on vacation. Guys, the story is absolutely ridiculous, and so are the other three. So I hope you enjoy them today, and do remember to hit that subscribe button for future tales. Guys, we're diving in. Get comfy. Now, this is more my dad's story than mine. So my dad was mowing our lawn when he spots our old neighbor, who's 85 years old, going for a walk. They had a bit of a chat, and before he left, the old neighbor made a joking comment saying, "Huh, you should do my lawn when you're done here." Now, my dad does get along well with him, and he knows that he doesn't have much of a lawn to begin with, and that he also struggles to mow it. So to be nice, my dad brings his lawnmower to his house and mows his lawn for him. The old neighbor is extremely grateful, offers my dad some money which he turns down, and then offers him a glass of lemonade. Now, this is where the story should have ended. Just a cute story about neighbors being nice, but no. The old neighbor lives beside the most entitled woman ever. Now, this woman isn't elderly. She's 40-ish years old. She's not disabled or in any other way incapable of mowing her own lawn. The woman just doesn't like doing it. She saw my dad mowing our old neighbor's lawn and saw him turn down money, and she decided that she was entitled to the same thing. She storms outside and impatiently huffed while dad and old neighbor drank lemonade and chatted. When my dad began packing up his lawnmower and getting ready to go, she stomps over and whined, "What about me?" Now at this point, my dad just looks at her in confusion and asked what she means. She responds with, "Aren't you gonna mow my lawn too?" Now with this, my dad declines since A, she's able to mow her own lawn, B, she has a pretty big lawn to begin with, and C, he has other things he needs to do. Now, this is where things start to get good. When dad turns her down, she has the audacity to say, "Well, you should at least give me $15 so I can pay one of the local kids to mow the lawn if you won't do it yourself." My dad didn't even bother arguing with her. He just packed up and left, with her throwing a tantrum as he went. He and old neighbor are still good friends. Dad will always show up when he sees the patch of grass getting a bit too long and mow it for him. The woman huffs every time she sees dad, and she still makes comments about how he should be mowing her lawn too. I absolutely love the way this lady thinks. If you don't mow my lawn, you should at least give me money so I can pay someone else to do it. Like, what in the world? If only it worked like that, ma'am. Seriously, guys. I have read so many of these stories, and I still get surprised at some things entitled people say because it's ridiculous. This story happened about 10 years ago when I was married to my second wife, now ex-wife. I'm a chef and she worked retail. Now, we weren't rich, but we were doing well for ourselves. We each owned our own cars, shared the money equally because it didn't matter who made more than the other, as we were married, so everything was equal. My wife wanted to take some extra classes, and instead of working her retail job, she would babysit for extra income, and I was all for it. If that's what made her happy, go for it. After she got settled with her classes, we put out ads for her babysitting side job. She ended up taking on 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy, all around 5 to 7 years old. All the kids were good, and we had a large fenced-in backyard that they could play in with lots of kids' toys. And the snacks were provided. My ex would watch the kids from 3 p.m. after they got out of school. Most of the parents were friendly and came in to pick up or drop off their kids. One mother, though, a Karen, would just come in and say, "See you later," to her 5-year-old and walk away. There was no kiss, no I love you, nothing. Anyways, things seemed to be going well and my ex was happy. Then one morning, a few days after we met this woman, the Karen drops her daughter off. Now, she had come really early, and my ex was still in class, so she was lucky it was my day off. I said I would watch her until my ex was done, and then she'll take over. She just shrugged it like it was nothing, and set a big duffel bag down just inside the door. Now, at this time, I'm thinking, that's quite the large duffel bag to be bringing for your daughter. Now, I had never been a part of this, except to talk to the kids and entertain them every now and then, so I didn't know the drop-off and pick-up procedures. Then, like always, the mother just turned and walked away. When my ex finishes her class and saw the girl, she asked where her mom was, since she was dropped off so early. The girl said, "Mommy's going away for a week. She said that I'm staying here with you until she gets back." Whoa, no. Immediately my ex started to call Karen, only for it to go straight to voicemail. She had a listing for another number listed as dad, and that went to voicemail as well. So my ex watched all 3 kids like usual, and the parents of the 2 other kids came on time and left. Now, this little girl usually got picked up at 6:30 p.m., but not that day. That time came and went, then 8:30, and then close to 10 p.m. The entire time, my ex was calling these numbers with the same results. Nothing but voicemail. We couldn't believe this woman would abandon her kid with strangers that she literally just met a few days ago. By this time, the girl had fallen asleep, and we put her in the spare room. The ex called the police to let them know what's going on, but said that we'll keep her with us for now until we reach the mother. After many tries to both numbers with no better results, I went on Facebook and found this woman's profile to see if I can find a family member to call. As soon as I clicked her profile and her page came up, my jaw hit the floor. Now, I saw a picture of Karen with her husband on a cruise ship deck as it was leaving port, shared 7 hours ago. I called in my ex to see, and she was as flabbergasted as I was. Luckily, one of her photos on her page was a Mother's Day post, and she had her mom tag. I contacted her mom to let her know what's happening, and someone had to come and pick this girl up. We didn't sign up for that. Her mother told us that she would be there as soon as she could. After close to 2 hours, the grandmother shows up to collect the girl. But she wasn't alone. She brought the little girl's father. The girl squeals out, "Daddy!" and then ran and hugged him, and I knew it had probably been a while since they saw each other. We invite them in for coffee, and grandmother told us the story. From what she told us, her daughter Karen had taken her daughter and ran off with some rich guy and didn't tell anybody where she was. And the guy on the cruise with her was the man she was cheating with, and not her husband. The father had called police from our place and told them to come there for proof of abandonment by the mother. I then showed the officer the Facebook photo of Karen on her cruise. He then got the father and the grandmother to go with him to the police station to fill out the paperwork, but took our statements at our house. Now, we never heard from the mother for the next 3 weeks, and I thought it was odd that she wouldn't go completely nuclear on us. Then a couple days later, we had an excited knock on the door. When I opened it, I saw the father beaming with joy, holding his daughter's hand. I invite them in, and he filled us in on the juicy details. So in the last year, his wife has been distancing herself from him. When he confronted her, she said he was delusional. She then waited until he left home one day and decided to take their daughter. When he got home, she and his daughter were gone. All there was a note saying goodbye, and that he will never see either of them again. After she ran off, he took the note to her mother, who did everything she could to help her, but the daughter was ignoring her too. She even hired someone to find her. It was just by chance that we found them, and they couldn't believe their luck. The father said the mother got some major and some minor charges. 1. Child abduction. 2. Child endangerment. 3. Child abandonment. 4. Possession of a controlled substance. 5. Resisting arrest. And 6. Vehicle theft. The father said that he now has 100% custody of his daughter, and the mother got in the area of 16 years in jail total. She was also ordered by the court to have zero contact indefinitely or until she finishes her jail time and extensive therapy. The father was also awarded the house and all the assets because he didn't have an income or a way to support his daughter. The other man she went on the cruise with owned a small company with his wife. When this all came out, his wife starts proceedings for a divorce, and since the company was started by her family and he didn't buy into it, it all went to her. She was also taking him to court for more things too. In the end, he had nothing and she had it all. He wasn't charged with any of the wrongdoings because he wasn't there to drop the girl off. My ex was sad to be losing such a sweet girl, but they stayed in contact. As far as I know, they are still in contact. The dad got a job with the kitchen I work in as a server, and I didn't get him the job. He did that all himself. I'm long gone from that place, but he's now co-owner and still goes in every day and serves tables. I hope her cruise was worth it. My friends, I have read countless stories of parents abandoning their kids for others to watch, but this one definitely takes the cake. A selfish mom basically leaves her daughter with strangers while she goes on vacation for a week, which is absolutely insane. And I'm so glad she's no longer allowed contact with her daughter because clearly she does not give a care in the world. I hope that vacation is worth 15 years behind bars, Karen, because you earned it. You really, really did. My family owns a few cabins up in Michigan that we rent out throughout the year. We have one that's our main one. It's on a lake perched on a hill, so you can see it from far away. My siblings and I all have kids now and are all in our 30s, so someone's usually up there from April to November, with maybe a few empty weekends here and there. Now, our neighbors on the bottom of the hill, they suck. They're a couple from out west who ripped down the 2 cottages on the land they bought and built an ugly modern-looking home that would fit in a large city, rather than on a lake. The bad thing about building such a large home is the lack of yard space, and they love to cry to us about how their kids have no backyard, and if we could sell them some of our yard, that would be great. Well, we love our yard. It's big enough that we've had 2 weddings there, and can have a full family reunion with 100+ people and still have room to play games without being in the way. So every time this family has asked to purchase a part of it, we say no. We do have an old chicken wire fence between the properties, and we do have grass, whereas they just have forest floor around their home, so it's really easy to see where the two properties stop. So just last weekend, my dad gets a call from one of our other neighbors that they saw the bad neighbor up on the hill walking around our cabin, with a few other people that she didn't recognize. So my dad did what every homeowner would do, and he called the cops. He's drinking buddies with a few of them during the warmer months, so they went out to check the place really quick. Now, this part is all from the cop my dad's friends with. It turns out when they got there, the bad neighbor was walking around with her friends, trying to set up a kid's outdoor winter park in the snow. The cops asked if they had permission, and she lied to their faces, saying she was in the process of closing on the land as she's buying the place, and that she's ripping the cabin down to turn it into a small snow park for the area. Well, the cops told her that she was trespassing, that they were called there by the owner who they were friends with. But the bad neighbor responded with, "Well, they weren't using it, they're not here during this time." Now, the bad neighbor was trying to put up a fight, but then started to try to walk away, but was ticketed along with her friends for trespassing. I guess they also laid into the ladies that if a kid got hurt while they were out there illegally, that they would be liable for everything. And then he said he's recommending my family put up a restraining order if she's caught up there again. Now, this isn't the first time she's been on the property without permission. We've caught her on the dock smoking, and she has many times picked a few of our veggies from the summer garden, both of which are on the other side of the hill from her. We're going up there once it gets warm enough to install more cameras, as right now we only have ones above the doors and garages. Guys, I love that mentality that entitled people have. Ugh, well they weren't using it, so we should be allowed to use it. So this person in the comments shares their experience, and it reads, "We have a lot of absentee landowners here in the forest above town. It's a tourist area, and some people own underdeveloped land that they hope to build on in the future. Meanwhile, they just visit sometimes and they camp. One guy came to visit his property and found a bunch of younger gentlemen laying out a skateboard park on his property, not just grading the land, but laying concrete, and also building features and so on. Now, the skateboard scene is huge here, and we do have a lot of legal adults who've played those games all their life and they never grew up, saying, 'Whoa, dude, chill, nobody's using it.' We're talking adults with jobs and families. And the property owner ended up demolishing it." Okay, so this happened years ago, 1985 to be exact. I was 45 when it happened, and I'm 81 years old now. So after my second retirement, I started doing property management. I bought this 2,500 square foot luxury home with the sole intention of renting it out. Now, I didn't know how bad the HOA was, but when I became the owner, I soon found out. This all took place in 2 years' time. Karen would literally have a problem with everybody in the neighborhood. Trash cans left out, we would get fined. Loud music after 10 p.m., we'd get fined. Yard sale without permission, we would get fined. Even removing dead plants and replanting without approval, we'd get fined. It went on and on like this. Now, the community could run for the HOA board, but the HOA board chose the president. And 6 out of 10 members on the board liked Karen, so she always kept her job. Her husband was in the medical field, so he also made a lot of money. It got to the point too, where she was called Queen Karen in the neighborhood, and her dishing out HOA fines. Now, I used to go in person to collect the rent because the people that rented my house were good friends of mine. I did this for months, so I would park my car by the front of the garage. My friends and I would have some music on, but it wasn't that loud, and Queen Karen would come over driving her golf cart and said, "You have to turn that music down, it's too loud." Now, I told her that it was 8 p.m., and that music that's even loud can be played until 10 p.m., and she wasn't having it, and demanded that I do so. Now, my friends and I kept the music going, and we were enjoying ourselves, and she proceeded to get angry, and she fined me. Now, most people would just take the abuse and pay the fine, but not me. I went to the HOA board and contested the fine, and I won. And from that point on, Queen Karen made it her personal mission to destroy me. She would complain and fuss about every little thing. I fought what I could, but ended up paying for some of it, and she also went after my tenants, which made things worse for me. I had to sit down with my friends one night to discuss the problem. When I parked my car, Queen Karen comes over in her robe and said that I have to park somewhere else. And I did, because I didn't want to start trouble. We could see her go back into her house and embrace a man that isn't her husband. Now, we were being noisy, and we came to the conclusion that she was cheating on her husband. And spoiler alert, she was. My friends and I told Queen Karen's husband. I'm sure he did some investigation because 3 months later they divorced and he was moving his stuff out. Now, gossip said that Queen Karen got nothing because she was the one that cheated and she didn't have a job, so she wasn't entitled to any money. From this point on, Queen Karen had a massive decline in the quality of life she had. She sold her new car and got a cheaper one since she adopted different dressing habits. But even after the divorce, she never got a job and was still living somewhere better than everybody else. Fast forward to 1986 in February. Queen Karen and the HOA were giving out fines for every obscure things and increased monthly dues. It got to the point where having trash cans a couple of hours early or after the trash man left would result in a fine. They would also target people that had older or dirty cars, and the list goes on and on. Me and the other people in the community were sick of that crap that she and the HOA were pulling. So at the next meeting, we voiced our concerns. Queen Karen said the community had been falling behind on repairs and that the dues and increase in fines were necessary, especially if people weren't maintaining their own property. She said it was in the yearly budget reports and that we should have read it. The other pissed off residents go and read the statement. Now, none of us read it because we take it as junk mail and we disregard it, but we read the whole statement cover to cover. Now, Queen Karen had increased the HOA budget to 15%, and where that extra money was going remained unknown. So we go to her house the next day and demand to know where the extra money was being spent, but she refused several times. She closed the door and goes back to watching TV. We filed a joint lawsuit to find out where the money was going, and in June, we found out. Queen Karen was using us, and she was living off the HOA fines and the dues. The increase is because she was running out of money. But she still didn't have a job, so she embezzled from the HOA so she wouldn't have to get a job, and she gets busted. We called the police for her embezzling money. She was charged with fraud and extortion. The neighbors and I filed a joint lawsuit against Karen to get reimbursement as well. Because she had no money, she had to mortgage her house to pay us all. She later went to federal prison for 6 years with no parole. Because she went away, no one was paying her house. The bank foreclosed on it and it was bought by someone else. So when she got out in 1992, she was homeless. Honestly, the majority of us didn't want to ruin her life like this. Had she toned down the excessive fines, we would have let her be. But she had to double down and steal from us because she didn't want to get a job like everybody else. Now that's a big oof, my friends. Thinking that she's too good to work was her downfall. Like, is it just me, or do entitled people make horrendous decisions? And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /entitled people. Guys, we survived another one. I hope you guys found these stories satisfying today. And if you missed the last episode of our /entitled people, a rich Karen runs a red light and destroys a car. And then she goes and sues the other person for being drunk. And spoiler alert, that person wasn't drunk. They weren't drunk at all. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.